Here are the new Hondas. This is a 2025 Honda Pilot Elite in platinum white pearl over black interior in an all-wheel drive configuration. And this is the Passport Black Edition all-wheel drive in Sonic gray pearl with black interior. What's the differences between the two? Which one is going to be better? I'm Anthony from Hawkeye Rides, and I'm going to go over some pros and cons, the problem that I have with both and comparable rivals, starting in the front for the Pilot. Standard LED headlights, daytime runnings, and fog lights, and the grille configuration will change, especially when you go into the Trail Sport, which will also increase ground clearance by 1 inch, making it more than the Passport. It would be at 8.3 inches, where standard is at 7.3 inches. The front fascia of the Passport is going to have a configuration similar to the Ridgeline. LED headlights and daytime runnings. Fog lights will only come on the Black Edition with 8.1 inches of clearance. But what's housed underneath the hood changes the vehicles just a little bit, because we got the 3.5 liter V6 producing 285 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque paired to a 10-speed automatic transmission, achieving 19 mpgs for the city, 25 mpgs for the highway, whereas on the Passport, you're getting 280 horsepower out of the same configuration, 3.5 liter V6, with the same torque at 262 pound-feet with a 9-speed automatic transmission, achieving 19 mpgs for the city, 24 mpgs for the highway. Both vehicles will have the variable cylinder management, which will deactivate cylinders to get better fuel economy. Going into the EXL for the Passport, it's going to have a 20-inch silver wheel. The Trail Sport will have an 18-inch all-terrain tire wheel setup with the off-road suspension. When you go to the Black Edition, you're getting the 20-inch black alloy wheels, gloss black on the side view mirror cap and on the roof rail, so it's going to look a little bit more sporty, whereas on the Pilot, all trims are going to get a 20-inch wheel. It's going to be different configuration in color, except for the Trail Sport getting the 18-inch all-terrain tire setup, and this is nearly 11 inches longer than the Passport, but it also gained a few inches from the prior gen when we got the refresh, plus gaining 5 horsepower, so this makes it a little bit more desirable for that everyday drive, basically compensating for the extra length and width for the new generation setup. Both trims will have LED taillights. The lower is going to be a little bit more aggressive when you're going into the Passport because of the dual exhaust setup, whereas when you go into the Pilot, it's a little bit more of a luxury design. Front and rear parking sensors, and we get a 360-degree reverse camera when you go into the Pilot, whereas on the Passport, you can't even get that. Now, yes, you have to go up trim. So the Trail Sport, and then going up into the Touring, the Elite, which we have, and the new Black Edition. And as for competition, the Kia Telluride and Nissan Pathfinder will tow more than this example, because it goes up to 6,000 pounds. As for Toyota, it's going to be right on par. In the new Hyundai Santa Fe, if you go into the XRT, it actually slots in between the two of these, giving standard third row. The towing's down to 4,500 pounds, and it's not going to be as long as the Pilot. That's going to be a little bit longer than the Passport. And as for the Passport, comparing it against Toyota, Hyundai, Kia, it's going to be a little bit more rugged, having a little bit more capabilities. Both are going to get a power lift gate, except the cargo is going to be different. In the Passport, it's going to start off at 40.2 cubic feet of storage. Get a little storage bin here, another one right here with 12-volt charger. Underneath the floor, get some storage, pull this up, and you got your spare tire with a little bit more storage capacity, and you can fold down the second row in the back at a 60-40 split, maxing cargo to 77.7 cubic feet. Whereas when you go into the Pilot, it's going to start off at 18.6 cubic feet behind the third row. It's going to sit up just a little bit higher. We still get the 12-volt, the storage bin. Not so much of a storage bin here, but underneath the floor is a little bit of a twist, which you can also fold this around. So that way, if you have anything that is wet, it's not going to make the vehicle smell. Split fold the third row in the back by pulling the levers. That's going to increase cargo to 48.5. So you're already seeing more cargo capacity there. However, you do have to go inside to fold down the second row. That's going to max cargo to 87 cubic feet of storage. Ten-way power seat adjustment is standard, as well as heated front seats. Four-way power seat adjustment for the passenger. Black edition, you're going to get the red contrast stitch. Because of the black edition, it's the only trim that gets ventilated front seats with memory for the driver. The Sport will start with cloth seats. Power seat adjustment is standard, and heated front seats. Leather starts on the EXL trim. Heated and ventilated for the Elite in the black edition, but you're going to get the perforated with the piping contrast stitch, memory for the driver. Headroom for the Passport and leg room. Because this is the black edition, you're going to get 10 speakers. That's going to be throughout with a subwoofer included instead of the 215 watt 7-speaker layout. Infotainment navigation comes on the Trail Sport first. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, Sirius XM, AM, FM, streaming Bluetooth audio. Wi-Fi hotspot is only on this trim. Honda Link is on all trims. Put it into reverse, and you get a reverse camera that'll show trajectory for the rear, and you can change different camera layouts, even lining it up for the tow. Tri-climate control settings is standard with a tray of storage with a 12-volt 2 USB with a standard wireless charging pad, and this center cluster area has been cleaned up, so it maximizes space, making it a little bit more roomy. The key fob for the Passport. It's going to be sporty, opens up. It's a pretty deep storage pocket with a pin holder. Leather wrap steering wheel is standard. Heated, perforated, multi-function, paddle shifts. The gauge cluster can go through an array of information for the driver, including the turn-by-turn navigation and different settings for the driver. The dash and the door panel configuring together. You get the blind spot monitoring, gloss black materials, even on the door handles, one touch up and down for the front windows, and it's going to be a little bit more sporty with 2 tiers of storage with the auto-dimming rear view mirror, a moonroof, and another mirror here for your sunglass holder to see in the back. As for the Pilot, the headroom and the leg room, and you're going to see a little bit of similarities, especially in the center here, because they have made it the same as the Passport for the refresh. Tri-climate control is standard. We do get storage in the dash. 12 speakers through Bose, because this is the Elite, also the Touring and the Black Edition gloss black elements for the side of the air vents. In the center, I like how it's still seamless, but it's not quite Civic. 7-inch starts off for the infotainment screen on the Sport. Going into the EXL, we'll get this 9-inch navigation with HD radio. Honda HomeLink is on all trims. And we have Wi-Fi hotspot, cabin talk, which is cool because when you push here, you can talk to people in the cabin, so you don't have to yell, which it's not necessarily that large of a vehicle. A big difference, though, is we get a 360-degree reverse camera, full trajectory for the front and the rear, different camera layouts, where you're not going to get that on the Passport. Same size storage in here. Leather wrap steering wheel is standard. This one's heated, multi-function with the paddle shifts, and the gauge cluster is a lot different than the Passport. You can go through an array of information for the driver, and you can change the whole configuration on this side to change the way the tach and odometer layout is. I usually prefer the round. So we're going to go here, go back so you can see how it looks. Heads-up display is only going to be on the Touring, Black Edition, and Elite, and the key fob is going to be the same as the Passport. Door panel dash configured together. We get the ambient lighting with the satin aluminum, and it's going to be soft to touch where it needs to be. One touch up and down for the windows, 2 tiers of storage. With an auto-dimming rear view mirror, HomeLink, and a pano moonroof. With the same configuration for the sunglass holder. For the back seat of the Passport, headroom, legroom, storage, third climate control setting, 2 USB ports, 12 volt. Heated rear seats is only on this trim. Cup holders with an armrest that folds up. Sunshades, the door is going to get the gloss black, but it's going to strip out the gloss black pattern that goes here with 2 cup holders and a storage in the lower and it's going to be a little bit more sporty, and a large grab handle sliding into the center. The floor is more or less flat, so feet space isn't going to be an issue, even though this kind of pushes out. But leg and shoulder space is going to be good as well. And the same thing for headroom, and you can also adjust these seats back so you can recline. I would remove this, making it a 4-seater, unfortunately, so that way it's not bothering the person behind the driver. As for the pilot, headroom for the second row, because we do have a third row. Leg room, and we have more storage nooks behind both of the front seats. Third climate control heated rear seats, which is only going to be on the Elite in the Black Edition. The home plug starts on the EXL, 2 USB ports, cup holders with armrests. But what's nice about Honda is once you remove this seat belt, you can fold down this at the 40-20-40 split. You pull the lever down here and you can completely remove this seat, giving a captain seat configuration. But now you're thinking, well, I got to store it in my garage. No, it stores right here and you still have cargo capacity on both sides. You can also slide these forward to give more room to the third row, slide them back. And because we have more or less a captain seat configuration, you can relax a little bit because we have removed the seat. With the seat in the center, you're going to have the cup holders and you have a storage pocket here. It's more or less soft to touch where it needs to be. As for the door panel, we get these sunshades. They're manual. We get the ambient lighting. The Bose comes into play. It's going to be a little bit soft to touch where it needs to be. 2 tiers of storage, and with the seat back, we have plenty of room for feet, but it's going to be the same thing with this pushing out. But leg and shoulder space is not going to be compromised either. And the same thing for headroom. But we have a third row. Push this button, and now we can go inside to fit 2 more. I've reclined the seat back to the furthest position. Both get USB ports on each side with air vents, cup holders, large window, LED interior lights where you're not going to get that on the Passport. Headroom with the seat reclined. This does come outwards a little bit more so. And for leg space, it's actually doable for somebody at 6'3", but it's going to be a little bit tight for a center seat. However, we're going to just see how it is. This is with the seat in the center. But leg and shoulder space isn't too bad. This does bulge out, but I like how they push it inwards a little bit because it kind of maximizes arm room on both sides. But without the center seat, you can stretch out. And because this is plastic, you don't have to worry about wet shoes, making feet space not an issue. But shoulder space, it's going to be a little bit more tight, but it's still doable even if you sit upright. 280 horsepower opposed to 285 horsepower. Same torque, 9-speed automatic transmission opposed to 10-speed. You can't option heads-up display. You can't option Bose sound system. There's no need for a third row because this is a 2-row variant, so I'm all right with that because I have plenty of cargo capacity. Same towing capabilities. Clearance is going to be 8.1 inches opposed to the standard 7.3. The gauge cluster I'm not a huge fan of with this design because it is the older setup, and the front is going to look a lot more ridgeline, so it looks a little bit more off-roadsy when you go to the Passport. Even in the Black Edition, I kind of wish it had more soft seats though. Ventilated seats and heated rear seats is only going to be on the Black Edition, and it doesn't feel wide or long. So for getting in and out of lanes, I don't think you're going to have too many problems with that. I don't like how higher up I sit in this opposed to the Pilot though. The Pilot, I feel like I sit down a little bit more so, and a lot of that is derived because of the cushions. Turn radius at more or less a stop point. It's going to get about 2 lanes. Let's rock and roll. And braking doesn't feel heavy. The pedal does feel a little bit more heavy here. And when I'm thinking a few $1,000 difference, you are getting a lot more features going into the Pilot opposed to this, and a little bit more capabilities because you have the third row seat. It's going to be just as quiet. I like that you can still hear the exhaust that filters in. For the everyday drive, you're going to be hitting 2.5 to 3 RPMs regardless. And the major difference is the seats are going to be a lot more firm here. You sit up high, a little bit more rigid for the suspension layout, more ridgeline basically, even in the interior. And sadly, they just reconfigured this center cluster kind of wish that they implemented a little bit more Pilot inside here, especially with the gauge cluster and the way the seat cushioning is. But let's see the difference in the drive. As for the Pilot, it's a little bit more sealed up. You'll still hear the exhaust filter in. The seats are a lot more comfortable. You sit a little bit lower inside the cabin. Third row capabilities, you're gonna have the same off-road and towing capabilities more or less. It just feels a little bit more upscale and more luxurious. That's gonna take me to some pros and cons. Starting off with the pros is you get so much more value. This is an Acura discounted by $5,000 to $10,000. And when I'm saying that, I understand I'm not going to have the Acura True Touch. I actually got a touch screen. However, it's a 9-inch that comes out of the dash. Not a huge fan of that. I do like that we have more storage that comes into the dash, and I like the gauge cluster layout because it is more up to date with the heads-up display. Plus, we're getting a 360-degree reverse camera here. You can't even option that in the Passport. The center cluster is going to be the same layout. The major difference, though, is the footwell area is going to feel a little bit more wide. And it feels like you have more headroom as well for the first and second row. You also have third row capabilities. Plus, you can alter this to captain seat configuration so you don't have to tick the box for the Trail Sport if you're not wanting that off-roadsy look and the extra clearance. The cons to it is if you put it in Econ, it will take forever to get up to speed, so I would suggest leaving it in normal and sport. Because this is a 10-speed opposed to the 9-speed, I have found this where it is looking for gears, so that gives a little bit of a hesitation as well. And because we have the cylinder management, it also changes the configuration of the power whenever you're mashing on the gas. Turn radius at more or less a stop point is going to get about 2 lane-ish, about the same, and let's rock and roll. Overall, this feels more like an SUV, whereas the Passport feels more like a truck, especially with the seat cushion, the way it's designed in the interior, the actual sit to it, meaning the clearance. You're still getting all the safety, you're getting a lot more amenities, and it's only a few $1,000s difference. And comparing it against competition, Toyota, Kia, Hyundai, this is going to slot right in with the rivals, but it's going to give a little bit more plush amenities because you're getting an Acura with a Honda badge. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Check out the next video, merchandise, website, and Instagram. Leave a comment and a like, and I'd like to thank Ocean Honda for giving us these two Hondas, the 2025 Honda Pilot Elite versus the Honda Passport Black Edition for our car review comparison.